Hello, everyone, and welcome to Xpress Lane, the official U.S. Xpress podcast, where we talk about all things trucking. I'm Brenna Powers. I'm the communications specialist here at U.S. Xpress, and today I'm joined once again by our friends from Safety.
Hi, I'm Daniel Pemberton, Senior Vice President of Safety.
I'm David Tomshack, Senior Director of Safety.
So hopefully you guys watched our last episode where Daniel and David joined us. They talked a little bit about our new Netrodyne cameras, and you got to know a little bit about how they got started in the trucking industry and how they've been best friends forever. But today we have a different topic on the agenda. Guys, what are we talking about today?
Yeah, today it's hard to believe, but summer is over. So we're talking about back to school.
Perfect. Back to school safety. That is important. It's hard to believe summer is over. So let's just dive right in. I know we have a couple things we want to hit on. So tell me, why is this back to school season such an important time for truck drivers to be thinking about safety?
Yeah, I think just kick it off from my vantage point. One of the things that I notice on my own commute, but we see every year, looking at videos and hearing feedback from drivers, is just how much traffic patterns change when school starts back up. Parents start their days earlier. The congestion starts earlier. There's a lot more vehicles on the road. And that leads to tougher conditions for our drivers.
Sure. Yeah, I assume people are getting up earlier and they're, getting up at the crack of dawn to get their kids to school. And I think, sometimes it's hard. Like the summer months come, we kind of forget, how crazy car pickup lines can be and stuff like that. So talk a little bit about how, back to school season can be just kind of unpredictable at times.
Right. I think from my viewpoint on that, we're in and out of all communities. It's not all highway driving.
Sure.
So we go through some little small towns and there's the school zone that's there. Well, we need to be aware of those situations there. Watch for that school bus to stop, put the flag out, it's got to stop. And even, on the highways, you go through some situations where there's a school out by a highway and you've got to stop on the highway. And a lot of times, your mind's not set for, there's a school zone coming up, so I've got to stop out here on the highway. So always being aware of the signage and what's going on is a priority for a driver.
Sure.
No, I agree. And I think, one of the things that kind of lends to it being risky and potentially dangerous is there are a lot of pedestrians around in school zones. So kids, often they're a little bit smaller. They're tougher to see, especially in the early morning hours whenever it's time for school to get started. So making sure you have that space, you're taking the time, that you're following those school zone speed limits is important to make sure that we minimize the risk of having an accident in those areas.
Yeah, I think that's important. I appreciate that you guys kind of, touched on what are the challenges of back to school. I know people kind of are like, it's back to school, but what really are the challenges? So I guess, to you guys, what are some of those practical tips or best practices that drivers can be thinking about before they hit the road this back to school season?
Yeah, I think it starts with proper trip planning, understanding where you're going and what to expect along your route. So if you think about, hey, you've delivered to the same store for the last, 3 months and that store's in a neighborhood, you've probably not paid much attention to school zones because school's not been in session. But understanding that you're going to go by that school zone, that may mean that you need to take a different route to avoid that congestion and still make service. Or it may mean that you've got to budget a little extra time, so you're not trying to rush through that to make that delivery. So I think that's a big one from kind of what we see and my vantage point. And David, I didn't know if there was anything else you wanted to throw in there.
Well, I was just thinking about that trip planning, like you said. I know back whenever I drove, I was really focused on the traffic congestion in areas, but it's the same applies to the school zone area. You need to go ahead and plan for that, be prepared when you get to those situations, because you're going to have the school buses stopping, the parents that are frustrated because it took them, extra time to get the kids up and ready for school and they didn't want breakfast and, all the kind of stuff that, goes along with that. And so there's frustration and inattentiveness of all the other people. So we've got to do the right thing.
Be extra aware.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't count on everybody else to have enough coffee to get their day
Right.
started, right? So
Right.
you have to.
Right, for sure. So as we're kind of wrapping up this episode, what is like one key takeaway that you would give to drivers listening? You know, if you take one thing away, do this, think about this as you're on the road this back to school season.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think trip planning is a big one, like we talked about earlier. But the other one that, as I was doing some research and looking at some different data around this topic, was the importance of 20 feet or so of distance between you and a school bus.
Okay.
That gives you a little extra time to be able to assess what's going on around you, and it also gives you enough space that you can see small children that are moving in and around a school bus or at a bus stop. So I think that's a good one as a takeaway.
Okay.
And I think adding to that, you come up on a school bus that stopped, got their stop sign out. The kids get off, the sign closes, the bus takes off. Well, where are those kids? You still got to keep in mind, where are those kids? Did they run off to the house?
Right.
Or are they waiting to run across the road to the other side? Yeah. So being aware of the children in the area, but also just keeping your space cushion from the other vehicles around, so that way you can clearly see exactly what's going on.
Yeah, that's a great call out. I will keep that in mind myself as I'm out on the road. Now, one last question. This can relate to back to school season. It can relate to just safety as a whole. What is one safety tip that every driver should know?
Yeah, going back to what David said earlier, he talked about school zones that are on major highways. I drive through 2 of those every morning on the way to work. And the one thing that I would say that applies both for back to school and just driving in general is creating space around you, making sure that as you're out there on the road, you've got ample time to understand visually what's going on around you, and being able to react to that and make good decisions. So that extra space is important.
I know you kind of touched on that space cushion is important.
Right. And with that too, any distracted driving seminars or anything you go to, they talk about eye lead time. How far away are you looking? So that helps you create that space that's needing. So you're being aware of not only what's going on in front of you, checking your mirrors, what's going on beside me, and for what you can see behind you. So you've got to try to control as much as you can. You can only control what's going on in front of you, but you've got to try to
stay aware of everything around
exactly
you.
Right. And have
spatial awareness.
Spatial awareness. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, cool. Anything else to add before we wrap up?
It's again hard to believe summer's over, but back to school is always an exciting time of year. I know the moms and dads out there are probably really excited about that.
The kids are like, no.
No, just want to say thank you to our drivers for everything they do to keep us safe out on the roadway, and know that they'll do their part.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you guys for watching and listening. Again, I would encourage you guys, if there's a certain topic that you want to hear discussed on Xpress Lane, drop it in the comments or email us at usxcommunications@usexpress.com. You can follow us on our social media channels. And if you are looking to start your trucking career, why not come to US Xpress? We'll put our website in the description. And thank you guys again for joining us. And thank you guys for listening. Stay tuned for our next episode.
Thanks for having us.